Hey everybody. So today I wanted to talk about something that was on my mind these past couple days, just reflecting about age and wisdom and being able to observe my parents and my brothers and how each of us has approached life differently. Um, I think back when I was younger, I was heavily invested in my imagination. I did a lot of drawing and I did a lot of writing, and I cultivated my creativity a lot more and it felt great. I had a passion for art and for music, and I wanted to take that somewhere and get go into the arts. But then as I got older, I started writing more, and I was thinking maybe I could be an English teacher. Of course, I got into college and realized that that was quite a task to take on, and really all I really wanted to do was write stories and publish books, and that's something that I'm working towards. Um, but when it came down to my life, I feel like my life has been kind of multifaceted, meaning that reflecting on parts of my life, it's almost like I have lived a double life, one in the church and one outside of it. And how I conduct and behave with other people is usually different depending on the person. I think some people assume that I'm an introvert until you get me around certain other people, and then I can, blossom and start talking and joking and stuff. Usually it's around friends that I know and people that I'm familiar with. People that I'm not so familiar with, I don't really have issues. It's usually I just more of an introvert when I'm in front of strangers. But when I'm with friends, I'm a lot more expressive and open. And but I was thinking about like just age and wisdom, and thinking about my parents and their experiences in their life, and how I believe that my parents were a step above their own and how they were raised. And but there was so much of a learning curve for even them that when I look back on it, I think that they were just trying to raise us boys with structure and a sense of purpose within religion. And I think in some ways, in a lot of ways, it helped me spiritually. But then as I got older, I realized that I had to kind of develop my own ideas and my own beliefs in order to function on a more authentic, natural place. And, I don't think I have an aversion to attending church. It's not something that I do consistently anymore. And because I want to invest my time more in my art and my creativity. Um, but I do enjoy spending time with those that I had connected with when I was younger. I had a wide circle of friends in church, and also in college. Not so much in high school. High school was a challenging part of my life, um, but once I got into college, I really branched out and was able to learn more about English, how to write, how to read, be able to, have a wider circle of friends that I could, you know, be able to cultivate creative experiences, whether it be a creative writing class where I was writing scripts, or whether I was taking an acting class and I was doing improv or sketches or plays. I really enjoyed that, and that was really an exciting thing for me. As I've gotten older, I've realized that I'm not so much invested in casting a wide social net. I have close friends, but I feel like my social life now is a lot more calmer than what it was in college. There was a lot of overstimulation in college and a lot of time invested in trying to study and not much sleep. And I'd probably say the upside of college was the experience of being able to learn how to write with greater clarity. But the downside was is that I didn't get much sleep, um, just because I put things off at last minute, and so I'd always have to play catch up with my work. and stay up late nights. But what I've noticed is that, um, and this is something that I learned from my sister-in-law, that, whatever experiences that I've been through in my life, that, I'm the only one that really knows who I am and knows my experiences on a personal level. I really can't rely on anyone else to kind of project their ideas of how they view me or how they see me. And especially that goes for, my mental health. I've become more reassured and more confident in expressing my experiences with my mental health, realizing that it wasn't just my problem, but really it's been culture and society that has put a lot of unnecessary expectations on individuals about success and, the hustle culture and, being able to, have your time in the spotlight, and just a lot of that stuff is unhealthy. I think what should be valued more is just trying to live a simple life and not one that revolves around, a lot of materialistic things or a lot of friends, or, just be able to have a simple life with good family, nice circle of friends, but nothing, too grandiose or big. And I've recognized that now. And even the time that I spend online, I'm realizing that there's a lot of shallow pursuits. Um, I think that, the time that we spend on, whether it be social media or YouTube or scrolling through the news, it doesn't really do much for our lives. I think as a culture or as individuals, um, I do think that the times where there is a spark of inspiration is when other people can get together and support each other. But, half the time, I think seems like the world is kind of in a state of apathy. You know, um, People don't really know how to express how they feel or what they're thinking. Or sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they're always oversharing things within their life, and I know I've been guilty of that. But I think for the most part, I don't really have a huge platform, and so I just kind of do these things as sort of an introspective and reflective thing, like journaling. And so yeah, I think I was just thinking about, you know the chapters, and that's kind of how I view life, is like in some ways a story. That we go through different chapters in our life, and we have our own story arc, our own process of changing. And I think that when I looked at my dad, I saw him, as a much more mature man as opposed to who he was when he was younger. And I think he was pretty mature even during the time of his church mission, but I think he got a lot more wiser as he got older. And he was more optimistic and more hardworking, and I found that as an inspiration. And, despite his flaws, he was always there to encourage me. And, there's always talk online and, on the social network about, what it means to be a part of a culture that is focused so much on gender and either masculinity or femininity. And I would say that for myself, I don't really think about my life in those terms per se. Um, there's times where I'm like, I realize that I have my male attributes, and my own, inclinations and things that I like that are, I guess, quote unquote, masculine. But usually it's something like, an action movie, or Maybe my assertive side of me, those that I'm around. Although I think I can kind of come off as kind of introverted and shy in front of some people, but usually that's not the case in front of my friends. So, but yeah, I would just say that, looking back, that at least looking at my parents, I can't speak for everyone else, but I think the older you get, the more reassured you are and the more comfortable you are and the more confident you are in your own beliefs and in your own place in society, and you're more content. But then at the same time, I think that I don't think necessarily wisdom comes along with experiences unless you've learned from those experiences. And I think that mom and dad just tackled things differently. Dad was more optimistic, and my mom was more pragmatic. And so I had those two sides to deal with in my life. And but I find that getting older, I think I'm just more reassured and in a state of wanting to be down to earth with myself and with other people. I'm not really concerned about, you know, um, the status quo or um, trying to be, in a place where I feel like I have to put on a performance in front of people, even though at times I do feel like, I could add a little bit more energy to, you know, my videos and everything. I don't, I can't say that I would be able to fake that, nor would I want to. I think for the most part, I'm a pretty um, chill person. I think I'm only revved up when I am over caffeinated and everything else. Um, but I find that age and wisdom is relative, and my experiences in my life have been a learning curve. What I did in my 20s no longer applies to what I do now. I think in my 20s I wanted to get out of Illinois and try to start a life in some other state and try to be in a different social circle. But I think now where I'm at, I'm more reassured and content in my environment just because I'm able to do what I love to do, and that's go outside and take a walk or come back and get some writing done. I think it's mainly just trying to break up my time that I'm trying to work on. Trying to, when I returned back to church, it was a good experience, but then I realized like I was in a different state and in a different place in my life now that I've gotten older. Who I was and when I was 19 no longer applies now. I was very energetic and optimistic about my religion and my spirituality. And I think now I think I have more of a pragmatic look on what I deal with in my life. I certainly still try to cultivate a spiritual life, but not on a daily basis per se, because I just don't think that's necessarily realistic. There's times where a person has to express themselves in the most accessible and honest way. I think that's the key word, is not necessarily accessible, but just honest. And I think that some people can't truly be honest with themselves unless they add a label to it. Like, oh, I'm Christian and this is what I believe, or oh, I'm atheist and this is what and I just don't really care for those labels. I considered myself a Christian, and I still believe in the principles that Jesus Christ taught, but I feel like it's more on a universal level. What I do with my personal life is, I feel like, in some ways entirely different to how culture functioned back in, say, you know, his time. And so, but so yeah, it's something that I'm still, learning and growing, and I think day by day I'm incrementally changing, but it's mainly just trying to figure out a way to cultivate my time better. And whether it's writing or, I think I've done really well with consistently taking my walks each day, and getting that exercise in. But really, I'm trying to work on spending more time writing, and but even then, like, it can be kind of challenging when you're in a state of flow and writing. It's great, but when you're not, you're kind of in this limbo state where you're not quite sure what you're supposed to do with your time. And I think probably I learned one thing from Brandon Sanderson, and that's kind of, when you're out doing other things, to prime yourself and think about what you're going to do in your story. And usually that can be triggered by listening to some good music that can get the ideas flowing, or just being able to take a walk, and ideas can come to you while you're walking. And that can in some ways help the writing process. But outside of that, like, I'm starting to realize I would like to have another outlet. I do love writing, but I think if I had the resources, I'd like to take a college course, or um, be able to, look into, getting into writing screenplays or performing again. But either way, wisdom and age are a pretty relative thing, and but I've noticed that in some ways, I think with my experiences, um, I've gained some wisdom, and I feel like I'm a lot more well balanced than what I was in my 20s. I think in my 20s, I was seeking out stimulation, and I was seeking out attention, and you know, I'm no longer, you know, being I'm not that age anymore. I don't really try to actively seek out attention, or um, try to seek out stimulation. And if I do, then it's on a lower scale of things. So, but but yeah, so I thought I'd do this video just for this time, and kind of express and update, my YouTube channel. And I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to take my YouTube channel and see what I'm going to do with it. But anyways, appreciate you listening, and hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.